Tell me, mate, how's your day been, first of all?
Oh, you caught me on an entertaining day, mate. Today's the first day where I'm like, holy shit, I'm on prep, mate. I can feel it today. Max has been telling me for a while that every day that goes past is my last best day, and I'm just going to be on a slow decline. So whatever I'm feeling now, it's going to be worse in however long.
Mm.
And I was like, oh yeah, I'll be a bit hungry. Might think about biscuits, but God, today I messed up my routine. I had I had my pre-meal. And then I realized I have to go to the gym quite quick. So I was like, oh, that's sound. I'll just have 50 grams of carbs extra. Then I brought my cream of rice with me because I had a posing session with a coach. And by the end of that posing, I probably had 0 grams of glycogen left in my body.
Man's got a
And on
hole
the
in
way
his
home,
double bicep.
yeah. And I told the guy, I was like, I feel like I look awful, but I feel way worse today.
That's great. That's what you want to hear. Max does cut your food as well, isn't he?
Yeah. And in the
Just get
worst way
better and better.
possible. We talked about it because I knew it was going to have to happen. My weight was stalling, even though
Mm.
condition was coming in. So then this morning, when I sent my check-ins, he said, yeah, I'll update it. So I tracked it going, oh, he's going to cut carbs by like 25, 30 grams. So I took 30 grams out. Then he sent it over. First thing I did was zoom in on the carbs and I went, oh, 30 grams, that's fine. And then I saw the 5 grams of fat as well. And I was like,
Just picking up dark chocolate from your fucking cream of
oh.
rice.
No, I
Oh,
literally, I was sat there, I was like, there's like 15 grams of fat in this meal alone. I'm screwed. All my mayo's gone from my last meal, but I've structured it well for the coming days.
absolute tragic scenes. How was the posing?
See, the thing with my posing is, I feel like I'm in a rush because I've got what 2.5 weeks till my first show.
Oh, mad.
But realistically, we're just kind of having to play around at that show. I've
Mm.
got like 11 weeks, so my posing's not it's not great, but it's not like a weak spot.
Yeah.
So it's something I'm working on, but just gonna get a couple sessions in with this coach. He's working his magic already.
See, I feel like I would prang out so much if I didn't have like something locked in. Um,
Yeah.
like if I was on stage and like a song came on and I was just like, right, I've just got to wing it. I just feel like I'd fall. I just feel like I'd do like a front lat spread and a side chest and then like 12 in circles for like the remaining 40 seconds and be like, yeah.
Just stick to men's physique poses in
Yeah,
classic.
yeah.
Just get it over
Just do
with.
men's physique poses and you're doing classic and you just don't know what's going on. It's all over the gaff. Um, so give people a bit of background on you, mate, because obviously you're, from what I know, I mean, you have a South African accent, you've lived in Dubai, but you live in Wales.
Yeah, so my accent's a very international school type of accent.
Mm,
Because for me, the first time I heard a certain word is just how I've said it since then. But
mm.
everybody in my school was essentially from a different country. So whoever said the word first, I'm saying it however they said it, whether it was like an American kid, a British kid, and then it just ended up being a mix of all these different like accents and dialects. Then I came here, everyone called me a posh Yankee twat, and I've slowly adjusted with
Class.
certain words.
Welcome to the UK where we just clown everyone, mate. That's
Especially when I was in Cardiff, people were like, "Why are you saying it like that?" And I was like, "It's Cardiff.
yeah.
That's how it's spelt." But anytime I brought that up, nobody was in agreement there.
That's class. Um, so I wanted to the main thing I kind of wanted to touch on. Obviously, we're going through prep right now, but two,
Mm.
I really wanted to kind of get your understanding from when you first joined Max. Did you literally straight away go into a push-up phase?
Yeah. So I sort of prepared myself for it quite well
Mm,
because I just for some background, I was always really into bodybuilding.
mm,
Always knew I wanted to get on stage. Always knew I had those goals. But then your first year of uni, things change a little bit. Your
yeah,
lifestyle
you're
takes a bit of
introduced
a hit.
into uni culture.
Yeah, and I was like,
Tracking
okay,
macros goes
first year,
straight out the window.
I went in tracking my steps, tracking my macros, and then first year I was like, okay, it's my first year. We'll just take this one on the chin, and I'll just have to adapt for this year. Then lockdown happened, gyms closed, and I was like, well, there goes the dream. here goes another year. We'll just wait out. We'll wait out these couple weeks until we're back in the gym. Took like 2 years until it was like continuously open in Wales. And then it was in my third year where I was like, okay, now's my time where I can get back on. I can really dial it in, but I need to start with a coach. And I thought, well, what's the first thing we're going to have to do? We're going to have to go into a gaining phase. So I took like 3 months to get lean enough to where when I start with him, there's no mess around. We can just start growing and make a timeline for when I can compete.
Mhm.
So I set myself up quite well for that. And then obviously I was still in uni, still around the whole lifestyle, but it went from being like my training was fine, everything else was awful, to me finally being able to like structure everything into the right place.
How did you manage to structure, like what changed? Obviously, you've got a coach now, but like what
Yeah.
changed within first year to that year where you were just like,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna do this.
Yeah, so especially with the people that I was around in Wales,
Hmm.
they anytime that they want to go out, it's like they're trying to set the record. So I had to
That's a
adapt to that a
British
little bit.
culture, though, isn't it? Like, I don't think like any uni person goes out for a drink just has one. Like that is like
No.
impossible challenge. Doesn't happen. Like everyone's drinking to get trolley. That is just like British
Yeah.
drinking culture.
And it doesn't matter what time of the day you started. Like if there's a football match or a rugby game on at like 1 p.m., we're out till 3 anyway. So
Mm,
and that wasn't like in Dubai I hardly drank at all. And then I had a gap year in Dubai and I was like so far separated from the idea of drinking. And
mm,
then I went straight into the deep end and I was like, well, we'll just adapt to this really fast.
mm.
And
Um, now go on.
when in that time when I was like, oh, I needed to get started with a coach, it just sort of took that part of my head to be like, I'm just gonna. There's like the choice of just not drinking, where it's like all your friends are gonna drink, and it seems like it's a really obvious thing, but when everybody around you is doing a certain thing, trying to pull yourself out of that is a
Mm.
lot harder than it seems. But as soon as I made that decision, it was fairly easy. And having Max on my side, where it's like we have goals every week to hit, made it a lot easier in itself.
I always find like if I go out, like I've tried it in the past, and like I still drink every now and then, but I always
Yeah,
find like it's not actually the drink it like being around people drinking, which I find really hard. I find it really hard being around people who are drunk and then I'm sober. Like trying to have a conversation
it's
with someone,
awful,
like
isn't
you're
it?
trying to go on it, and just like someone's talking about getting a kebab, and you're just like, no, I'm trying to have like an intellectual conversation here. Like it's just all over the gap, and you're like, what is going on right now?
And
Oh,
then my head goes straight to I'm lucky I'm sat there sober and they're talking to me and they're really drunk and I think, is that what I'm like? Because
yeah.
if I start drinking, I'm gonna turn into that as well, and that's awful. But when you're drunk, it's just like everyone's having a great time. You don't even think
Yeah,
about
it
it.
just matched the vibe, but when you're sober, you're just painfully aware of everything going on around you.
And I tried to put up with it. I tried to be like, oh, I'll just go out and I just won't drink. I'll have a couple Diet Cokes and everyone will think I'm part of it. But it's just not fun. And you can tell that you're not fun for them either. Like
Yeah,
they're looking for a certain energy, you're looking for a certain like conversation, and it's just the dynamic's not there.
yeah,
So I
the
was like, I'm
vibe
just
just isn't there, and it's just like some mad, awkward, like tension in there, and you're just like, yeah, this ain't it,
yeah,
mate. I was gonna say, so how did you originally get into bodybuilding then? Because you said you always had like a passion for it. What
yeah.
did that spark from?
I think obviously like first you end up in like the gym culture, you end up training and figuring out your diet and things. But when it got to like bodybuilding and competing was probably like 20 when I was like 16, 17. And that was when it must have been 2017. I think it was Josh Bridgman started like documenting his whole natural prep for that men's physique show.
Mhm.
And around the same time, AJ Morris started putting things out, and Jack Thorburn and things. And it was sort of a like natural bodybuilding. I obviously heard of it, but it's like I didn't realize what the standard was. I didn't realize how far people could take it. I just saw it as bodybuilding and then smaller bodybuilding. But
Mm.
then when I saw these physiques, I was like, these people are doing this naturally. And then that's why I'm competing naturally this year because it's never been a huge goal of mine. But I was like, I've seen what people can do naturally, and I just want to like take that off and be like, I've
Yeah.
done that.
I think it's smart. Like we've talked about this subject on the podcast multiple times about like there's kind of like two pathways you can go down where it's just like going straight and enhance or like
Mm,
seeing what you can achieve naturally. And I've always brought up like Lewis, is his second name Jones? Like Lewis Future Physiques. I don't know if you know him. He was one of
mm,
AJ's clients. He won like I think he won the overall at one of the, I don't know if it was WMBF. It was one of the natural federations, but he went enhanced. I think he's just on his like first season as a enhanced lifter, and like he genuinely looks like he's been on gear for like 5 years. Like I've never
yeah,
seen someone's physique explode so much. And I just think there's so many variables I think a lot of people overlook with PEDs, and they just think like, oh, my training's in an all right spot, so I'm just gonna hop on gear and all of a sudden I'm gonna be Ronnie
yeah,
Coleman. Like, and I always
yeah,
feel like if you can nail those basics before you take
mm,
that leap, and I presume by what you're saying, you've considered and you probably are going to take that leap. But I always feel like if you can nail those basics first and then go down that route, your like career down that kind of path will be so much better.
yeah, 100%. I had loads of people for the question box that I put up. I had
Mm,
2 or 3 people asking me about, do you think everyone should stay natural for X amount of time before going on or whatever?
mm,
And it's one of those things where it's like there's dozens of boxes you need to have ticked.
mm,
There's loads of skills you need to get. There's loads of lifestyle factors you need to take into account. But to be fair, at whatever age or whatever experience level you feel like you're in the right spot and you have in your head where that's what you're going to do. I mean, there's not a perfect time to ever do it. So whenever you feel like you've got everything, all the prerequisites out of the way,
mm,
there's no reason not to at that point if you know you're going to stick to it for long enough.
mm,
But it's acquiring those skills and adapting your lifestyle around it, so that adjustment where you can just seriously blow up from it. You don't
mm,
want to have like a testing phase where it's like you're trying to figure things out and you're on PDs because you're just not taking advantage of the basically the superpower you've just been given.
mm. So, what is the plan? Have you planned anything like I said to Tom last week? Have you built like a plan with Max after like all your shows are done? Do you have like a runway
Mm.
of kind of what is next?
We've got basically like three plans outlined, and all of them depend on sort of what happens in the next couple months.
Mm,
But it is one of those things where you need to have a plan regardless of going enhanced.
mm.
As a natural athlete coming out of a prep, you're in a very volatile situation. You're very vulnerable for at least a few months, and you need
Yeah,
to be
you're
ready
gonna
to
be
either.
everything in existence, otherwise
Yeah.
don't want
Although,
that.
yeah, exactly. Your diet is just that little change psychologically that's gonna be so much stress, and
Mm,
obviously the physical stress that you've just been building up for months.
mm. I think I don't know if it was you who touched on it, but I remember saying in the group chat, and it's one of the reasons like I'm really not in a rush to compete is there was I can't remember how it came up, but someone was basically saying like something about test levels, and it might have been you,
Yeah,
I'm not, but like you'd basically touched on the fact like how dangerous it is like for a natural individual and how long it takes for
yeah,
like testosterone to come back up, because like I've had people in the past when I post TikToks and that saying like, oh, this like why would you want to go enhance and do all this, it isn't healthy, and I always like try bring light to the subject that like
yeah,
bodybuilding in general, natural or enhanced, if you're getting into stage condition, shit is not
yeah,
healthy either way. And probably as a natural athlete, like, yeah, you can say that, PEDs are going to do X, Y, and Z to your health. But like when you look at a natural person, I'm pretty sure it's like it can take like 6 to 8 months for your test levels to like naturally be restored. I might be chatting shit.
yeah.
Don't take that as gospel.
Yeah, it definitely will take a couple months, obviously, depending on how you like play with the time that you have after your show,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of how you adapt, because it's loads of accumulated stress, and your body's just you've basically been starving yourself for so long. Your body can't get these natural processes out of the way. But there is obviously the best way to go about it, but it's one of those things. It's like you're picking your poison at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of how you go about it, bodybuilding, getting in stage condition is always going to be some level of uncomfortable and dangerous. But when people are so married to one side of that argument, it sort of just collapses, because either way where you go, you're still on the same spectrum. You're talking about how unhealthy people are going enhanced, and then you think, okay, well, I'll just stay natural forever. But then for half of the year after my show, my test levels are just that of an infant,
Mm.
and you just kind of have to firm it. You can't do anything about it other than wait.
I feel like it's something that really isn't touched on a lot by like a lot of like I've seen AJ talk about it and I'm pretty sure I've seen Jack talk about it once or twice, but
Mm,
like I feel like a lot of people going to compete don't even have like on even realizing that like it's
yeah.
like the amount of people like I remember this is such a stupid thing to bring up, but I'm gonna bring it up. I remember posting a TikTok about a year ago. No, it must, yeah, it might have been a year ago, and it was basically me saying like doing a dieting phase for the first time, and but it was a very extreme diet phase. I should have put in detail, but I was just like penis stops working, and I had like it blew up. It got like 40,000 views, and I had like comments like saying like, yeah, you dieted wrong. What do you mean? What is all this about? And like the amount of people who don't know like how like what can actually change in your body through hormones when you diet down like
Yeah.
it's mad, it is crazy.
Yeah, and it's sort of the idea that people don't understand how crucial your diet can be.
Mm,
Obviously, for general population, you tell them eat within these ranges. But then when you're starving, it's like those margins become so big where if you deviate too far to one side, your body's normal processes that people just take for granted will just stop happening.
mm.
And then that adjustment, both physically and then psychologically, just starts to build up the longer you like stay in prep for, the longer you diet for. And then people are surprised when they come out the other side and they just feel awful. And when they get that little bit of freedom to start eating normal again, they think
Oh mate, it's,
I'll just have a go at everything now.
I feel like actually I need to talk to Max about this, but I need to get like a plan in place because I found in the past like I've brought it up before. The first dieting phase I ever had, I never had structure
Mm.
after that photo shoot. And I remember I had like I think within 3 hours of the photo shoot, I had like a pack of Milky Bar buttons, a whole large pizza with like sides and like a waffle covered in like every
Yeah.
single chocolate topping you could get. And I remember for like the next 2 weeks. I think I had a waffle a day. I spent like £100 on like Deliveroo over that period. And I just remember like you just it's such a weird feeling when you're that
Mm.
hungry because I'm sure you're like not to rub this in your face, mate, because I know you're sound, but like I'm sure you're at that point where you're like you need to be conscious of like, you know, like I'm sure you're putting more thought into like what food you're making in terms of like not just like digestibility but like portion sizes to make sure you're full enough because it's very easy like at that kind of point to one slip up can really be like make or break.
Yeah, the biggest thing I've noticed with timing my food at the moment, because obviously my food's not low. I mean, it was up until today, it was on 2,800 calories a day.
Mm.
But along with my expenditure and how long we've been doing it, it
what
started
is
to add up.
what is your expenditure and everything out like
Uh,
cardio?
at the moment, it's just 30 minutes of cardio, 14,000 steps.
Mhm.
Then I've got my 5 training days. But if there's a day where I'll have my first meal and then I'm thinking, oh, I'll have another meal, then go to the gym. But then plans change and I go to the gym. I'm in this really tight window where my blood sugar will drop very quickly. And that's sort of the first and the only thing that I've really noticed. And it sort of builds up. You're like, well, I'm kind of tired. And then that's when the brain fog kicks in. And then my hands get all shaky and things. And I just think, I look at my macro factor and I think, okay, well, I can see why. Because I'm very behind on carbs for the last like 2, 3 hours.
No, I don't. You've had your bagel, right? You're not gonna go like hypoglycemic. I see. I'm not just gonna see you like slowly like go to the side or
No, when
anything.
I just walked in from the gym, I I said to my girlfriend, I was like, I'm just gonna pull a bagel for my next meal, eat that, and I'm gonna make a cup of tea for that 40 milligrams of caffeine to get some energy in me.
Nice.
But
Anything
honestly,
at this point.
caffeine's one of those tools where I've been trying to use it so well, but it just doesn't do what I hope it would.
Need to get on the stronger stimulants, mate.
Yeah, because I was completely off stims for ages, and then when I went to when I went to Rotherham, I was like, oh, I'll have a coffee. And then it had that feeling of like, okay, now there's caffeine in my system. And
Mm.
then a few days later, I had a monster, and then I can feel it. I'm like, okay, now I've got caffeine in my system. Now I sunk a monster on the way to the gym, didn't feel anything. I was like, I can have a nap right now. And it's already, my
The
body's already
tolerance has
so
already built.
tired. Yeah.
Right.
Tolerances are through
Um,
the roof.
I'm gonna get into some questions because I got loads for this pod.
I got
so-
a few good ones as well, but knowing the people that some of the people following me, some of them are awful here.
oh, fantastic! We love awful questions, mate. We'll go back and forth. So
Yeah, that's perfect.
I'll start. Tom asked if you had to restart the gym, knowing one thing, yeah, you know now, what would it be?
Mm. So if I go back to the start of my first gym session,
First ever experience inside that gym, and you can take what was it one? Yeah, you can take one thing you know now. So one thing you do.
that's a good question. My brain first went to choose a different split. Stop training arms 3 times a week. Because imagine if you had someone who's never trained before, you get them into like an upper lower split for however long, for like one training cycle for a couple months, and they just nail every movement.
Mm.
If I had that sooner, it would be so much better.
It sounds better than me, to be fair. I mean, I remember when I first started the gym, all I'd do is I'd deadlift, bench, and I'd squat, all with ridiculously bad form. Like I'm talking
Mm,
like looking like a dog shitting yourself deadlifting. And then I'd
mm,
just blast my arms to the point where like they wouldn't be recovered in the next session. I'd still blast them. I'd be like, I don't get
yeah.
why I'm not growing. And it feels like my arms are
Mm,
like not even there.
mm,
Um, I think I think from my standpoint, I'd be like enjoying the actual process because
mm,
I feel like now like I've really realized like the last couple of years I was so hard on so many like micro factors to the point where it just ended up with me like resenting training and resenting everything about the
yeah.
process. And I think so early on, you don't need to worry about any of these factors. Like
Mm,
you don't need to be like, yeah, it's good to make sure your training's in a good place and you're nailing intensity, but like, do you need to be worrying about like, meal timings, or do you need to be making sure
mm,
that your tempo is absolutely bang on every single rep, or you're doing all these like small things. Like if you're just a person who's new to the gym and you're getting into it to, improve yourself, and you're not even looking at from a bodybuilding standpoint, just fall in love with the process. And then when you get to a point where you're like, right, I like this, but I want to, improve this more, then start looking into that stuff. But like
yeah.
enjoy the basics first before you're like,
Mm,
what's the best split? What's the best meal plan? All this kind of stuff. It's like,
mm.
yeah.
I think that's a good point, and also trying to take that into account as a factor for what you're going to choose.
Mm.
Like when I first started, obviously messed around or whatever, and then if it must have been like probably a year in, I was like, okay, what's the best split I can do? And then I found one, and I was like, this sounds awful. I was like, this doesn't sound fun at all. I'm gonna, I'm picking exercises that I don't like, trying to chase these optimal sessions. But then at the end, I'm like, I didn't really like that session. Then I just end up putting 80% in. Then the next time I come in, it's like 70%. Then I fall off. So it's
Mm.
like, it's enjoyment is one of those things that you need to use it to make the split optimized for yourself. You need
Yeah.
to have enjoyment as a factor to make that decision.
And I think the thing is as well, like if you're someone who's like obsessed with like the literature and you're always looking into that kind of stuff, like it changes all the time. Like I remember when I started, it was like bands were being introduced and everyone was like, holy shit, this is the best thing ever. And now, like everyone I'm seeing is like, oh yeah, bands are shit, don't use bands. And you're just like, we're just going in circles here. And if
Yeah.
you're like one of these people who's just thinking, well, should I do this? Just figure out what you enjoy, do that. If it works,
Mm.
good. If it doesn't, then maybe look into changing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a bigger aspect that I don't think people take into account, or they try to ignore it, thinking that their personal preference isn't going to be like in line with the literature, so they just kind of ignore it.
Mm,
But you have to take into account adherence and how much effort you're going to put in when you don't actually enjoy something.
100%. Have you
You know when when you said when you started, you were doing squat, bench, and deadlift and everything. Who was sort of the people out that you were looking up to at the time, whose training you were following or whose ideologies you were trying to get into?
I was fully like a Gymshark fanboy. Like I
Mm,
remember I'm pretty David Lade was still like massive when I was just starting. Um
mm,
and he was getting to the point where like his videos had gone from like gym vlogs to like more aesthetic, like
Yeah, I
type
remember
of content, and it was kind of like when like OG Gymshark was coming up, so like Anthony
that.
Mantello, James English, like all those kind of people.
Yeah.
And I just started watching that, and I was just like, I just want to look sick. I just want to have abs. I want to be massive, mate. And
I
I
want to
just,
hit this abs and thighs under this bright gym
yeah,
light.
exactly. I just want to be like six foot
Yeah.
seven and just have the most aesthetic physique known to man. And then there's me at
Yeah.
like 16 with like 36% body fat. Like, what is going on? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, those were like, it's weird because like I've never really thought like I've had like someone where I'm just like that's been my influence. Like I watched Josh Bridgman, Glenn Gillen. Jesus Christ, that's an old one.
Mm.
He's I'm pretty
I
sure
saw him about on Instagram recently.
yeah, I'm pretty sure he's gonna
He's
enhance
making
that,
some
which is quite
moves.
quite mad. But like I just followed. I went from like the Gymshark route, and then I think I saw like someone competing, and then from there I was like, oh my god, because like I used to think like
Yeah.
Gymshark guys, I was like, that's the standard. Nothing's better than that, mate. You can't beat that.
Yeah.
And then I saw like some geezer on like gear like on the Olympia stage, and I was like, Jesus Christ! And then it was like, UK bodybuilding scene, got obsessed with that, and then went from there.
I think I would have been. I think I got around just before that when David Lade was doing his videos from that old gym with Dylan McKenna and Ryan
Yeah,
Casey.
yeah.
What was that other guy? Justin something. But they were all just like aesthetic, shredded all the time,
Mm,
deadlifting 700 pounds, and they were like sort of they were 2 years or 3 years older than me. So I was
mm.
like, okay, I've got 3 years to get to there.
Yeah.
And then there was a very obvious time where I was like, maybe some of these people I'm watching aren't natural because why don't I? It's been a year and
You're
I'm
like,
not
wait a
any
second, David
closer.
Blade only consumes like 300 calories a day, yet he's always progressing. How does this work? Like he's
And because
9 hours a day playing chess. That makes
because he was so consistent with content, there was so much information for me. Like every couple of days, another David Lade video drops. So I'm like, let's see what he's doing today. And I started like taking pieces of information from sort of that whole group of people,
mm.
and then he said he's going on a bulk, and I was like, okay, and he's still shredded. This is sick. I can get bigger and stay shredded. And it was like we're having 4 Pop-Tarts before the gym, and I'm double scooping this 500 milligram pre-workout. And I was like, I'll just do that. And then like 2 months later, I was like, why can't I breathe and why am I fat?
Doesn't
But I
make
try
sense.
to follow
Why
their
can't I
process.
sleep after double scooping? What is going on? Oh, it's kind of
Yeah,
Ruben.
but I tried to follow their process, being like, I want to deadlift crazy weight. So it was like that was
Mm,
impressive. When
mm,
you're that age, you sort of just go to whatever's like eye-catching, whoever's the biggest guy, the most shredded, or like whoever puts out the coolest content. And at
mm.
the time, it was David. He sort of took over the scene for everyone 19 and under for a couple
Oh,
years.
100%. Like he's I think what it is as well, when you're that young, you want to be like you want to become like more masculine because you're
Mm,
going through that stage where you've just gone from puberty and you're like this like for me I was like skinny fat and I was just like I don't feel like I'm like I remember being like 20 and looking at myself and I was like you look like a 12-year-old. Like I vividly remember that memory. It's like I need to do something to change this. And I think when you're seeing like these guys who are carved from like Mount Olympus with like
mm.
mewing like final bosses. I'm like, how does someone look so good? And you're just like, I just need a deadlift, mate. Easy.
I just need to learn how to bench 405 pounds at 19.
Yeah, just make it easy.
Here's one of these questionable ones, but we can just touch on this. Who wins in a street fight? You or Bradley Martin? He's 260 pounds.
Oh
Do we
my
want
God.
to do we want to
Mate,
touch
I've
that
seen that on
topic?
TikTok so much and it like it's genuinely cringy, but like at the same time, like because Joe Rogan, someone brought it up to Joe Rogan because he was talking about like Nate Diaz and all this guy, and there was like a viral clip of him speaking saying to Nate Diaz, he was like, "Oh, do you think you
Mm,
could actually like beat me up?" And like, yeah, you're massive, and I get that. I feel like if you're that size, you've probably got like 15 seconds. Like if you're
yeah.
facing someone who's like MMA, you've got like 15 seconds to do like your best, get like
Mm,
a good shot. If you get a good shot in, you've won. But like I'm
mm.
sure if someone gets on your back and then takes you like gets you to the floor, I feel like you're getting choked out in seconds.
There's one of those questions, one of those situations where I don't know where I stand because Yeah, if he gets in close, gets his hands on him and just starts using his weight,
Mm.
sure. But if he gets kicked in the leg
Oh, mate, when
or
they do those calf kicks and you can hear the slap. Mate, have you
there,
seen the state of my calves?
yeah,
My leg would snap in half. There would be no bottom leg.
yeah, there
My calf would be on the
when a
other side of the
conditioned
room, bro.
when a conditioned shin hits you in the side of the knee like that, and you're already so heavy, I don't
I tell
know.
you what, though, mate, if you were AJ Morris and you got calf kicked, bro, nothing is getting through that calf, bro.
That
Literally, Bradley
photo of
Martin
me
just
next
calf
to
kicked
him.
AJ. Nothing is getting through those calves. I have never seen calves like that in my life.
Why did Max not warn me about that photo? When I think it was Max taking the photo, he was looking at the screen. He can clearly see the difference in our calves and just thought, Ruben's gonna love this one.
Yeah,
He just got out
100%.
angled.
Oh,
That was an awful out angling. AJ's calves are ridiculous.
it's unfair. I've, how tall are you?
Well,
Oh,
I
here we go.
measured
Six foot
myself.
seven on Tinder. Yeah, all right.
I've been saying 6'3" for ages because I thought I was, but apparently I'm like 1 centimeter under. So
Mm,
it's up to you whether I can claim 6'3". I'll do it around anyone who isn't like 6'4".
I'm
Anyone
six
who's
foot, like on the dot, and I've measured it
I've
multiple
always
times because Zal always calls me out on it.
yeah, I've always said I wanted to be like 6 foot or 6'1" just to look a bit bigger.
Mm,
But I guess if I fill out my frame on stage, if I can take up a bit more room,
mm. Just
that
get
might help.
simple when you go enhanced and just put in your calves.
Easy.
Just easy, mate. Easy. Why doesn't
I
everyone?
had a, I had another question
Hmm.
about going enhanced. What was it? Oh yeah. Someone this is such an open end. Someone just put fake natties. So
What?
whether they want us to discuss who's a fake natty or what we think about a fake natty, because who's a fake natty, I hate that. I hate when people speculate, and I hate when people put up these obvious people. They're like Bradley Martin natty or not. Like we're wasting our time.
No, do you know
Let's
what? The one that fucks me off the most, because some people still believe it, is Mike O'Hearn. Mike O'Hearn is not
mm,
natural. I don't care what you say. Bro is literally 50 years old and he's ripped year round.
mm.
He's not like, it doesn't.
The fact that people bring those conversations up to me, or the fact that they sat and made content about it, I'm actually offended by the
Mm,
fact that we're talking about it. And
mm,
I think, firstly, there's people closer to that cusp that we could be talking about.
mm,
And why is it never, oh, this guy's like really big for a natural, but we're like 99% sure he's natural, but he's just as big as an enhanced athlete. It's
mm.
always, here's a huge bloke. Do we think he's natural? And he's like the 0.001%, and we've never actually seen those people in these conditions.
Mm.
But the fact that people feel the need to go out of their way to speculate, it's like either way, we'll never know until we sit down with them.
The only one who I like, I've seen like him get a load of shit for it, and I'm like, he is natural. Do you know Adam Powell?
Yeah,
Adam, to be fair, he looks
he's
nutty.
one.
Like he
He's one of the
looks
greats, but
insane. But he has like his like proportions and his like muscle bellies are just like perfect. Do you know what I mean?
mm.
Like he
And the
genuinely,
way he structures
mm,
his not only his training but like his year. You
mm,
look at it and you're like to a T. His process was perfect to get him
yeah.
in the shape that he needed to be
And
in.
if you see as well, like I feel like a lot of people just ignore, like it really annoys me because someone will see like one reel and they won't have looked at any of their other stuff. They'll be like, oh fuck it, yeah,
Yeah,
one shredded reel, yeah, mate, not gonna look into this. They're like, yeah,
yeah.
not real. And then you see like his off season, and bro literally looks like a blimp. Like it is
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like it is
He
crazy.
posted a reel recently. What was it? The last couple of days.
Mm,
That one where it's like you committed to the bulk, and then he
mm,
posts that photo, and then I think me in my peak off season, like my biggest and my fattest, I did not have that shape and that structure still. I
mm,
just looked like a blob, and I
mm.
knew that there was some muscle under there, but his delts are still capped, his waist is still small. I just think he's just got the structure for it, and he's planned out everything so well to just look the way that he does.
What did you push up from, and what did you finish at?
Ooh. I think I started about, well, I think the first 2 weeks we were trying to find my maintenance, and my weight dropped to about 84, to about where I'm sat now,
Mhm.
like 84, and we pushed up to like 98. I think the heaviest I saw was like 98.7, and that was sort of there was a couple weeks where my body was really fighting that weight off. Like my weight just wouldn't climb, and then he'd up food, and then it wouldn't climb, and then suddenly it just spikes. It's like for those 2 weeks, my body was just throwing out any processes to just burn calories.
What did your food get to? Like what was the highest?
I think it was like 4.6 thousand calories. It was like 800 something carb, I think. And
Oh,
that was for a little while, and then I think we had a big drop in when we thought, okay, now it's time to clean up. Let's get ready for prep. It was sort of a big drop, and at that point, it's welcomed getting rid of like a couple 100 grams of carbs when you're that heavy and you're that full all day. It's like you miss a meal, something comes up, you do like work for an hour extra, and you miss a meal,
yeah,
and now you're just sat there with a bucket of food. It got to that point where it's like it was stressful, but
yeah.
it was never. I never got to the point where I couldn't eat the food. I just have if there's the my problem is if you put a plate of food in front of me, my brain automatically goes, that's how much I need to eat. And in like an off-plan meal setting, that's a really bad mentality. When I order food, I'm like, I'll try a bit of that, have some of that, and then here's my main. But then I just see it as a challenge of I need to finish all of these items, and
Yeah.
I succeed, and then I feel awful.
Right. Someone asked how to stay natty in a world full of PD users.
Ooh, that's a good question. Uh, First thing would be find your reason for staying natural. If you're debating whether to go enhanced or stay natural, you have to figure out which one you really want to do, see which one's sustainable. But if you really have no intention of being enhanced and you just want to be natural, you just have to kind of accept that there's levels to it and you're never gonna push it to that limit. But there's some crazy impressive natural athletes that I think everyone gets respect from just because of what they've been able to do,
Mm, mm.
which is almost, which I think people see it as more valuable than being an enhanced athlete that's in crazy condition.
I
But
think I wouldn't say valuable. It's hard because I wanted to say relatable, but it's not really because it is the
mm,
extreme. But I think it's easier for people to kind of like well then again it's like I don't know. I think for anyone who's like teetering between the two, I think one of the massive things you need to consider is like one, like you said, we roles, like, do you actually have a reason to do it? Like, is
mm,
there something you're chasing, or is it just, oh, I want a little bit more muscle? Because then you need to kind of weigh it up.
mm,
Are these health risks worth it? Are you mentally stable? Are you in a position where you can, afford to get bloods done, where you can pay for all these
mm,
drugs that you're going to have to use? Like, I think a lot of people really um kind of don't really realize like how much you really need to look into it because I remember when I went onto my consultation call and kind of like all these kind of things I had to like supplements, health checks, bloods, regular, like it stacks up quick and you're like, oh, okay.
mm.
And then that's just without any of the drugs. And then you have to pay for coaching and all your food. And you're like, okay, this is, yeah, you know?
Yeah, because you're taking on the responsibility of fitting your bodybuilding lifestyle around it, your food and your everything surrounding your training. Then you have a whole separate side, but then you also have just down to the basic thing. Are you prepared to stick a needle in all different parts of your body every single
Mm,
day? It's
mm.
like people will be so ready for it, and then after the first few times they pain, they're like, "This hurts every time." It's like, well, yeah, that's obvious.
It's
You're
a
going to be in
needle
pain.
penetrating muscle. That's what did you think it was going to feel like?
And then once the compounds start changing to more viscous oils and things, and you have to start really pushing in, it's not a fun process, I'm assuming.
Mm.
But being
Uh,
around bodybuilders that are enhanced, watching them do it, it's like that. It never gets easier. It's never enjoyable. You're still stabbing yourself and putting liquid into you.
yeah, it is wild.
Mm.
Um, Leads us on to the next question. Kieran said, "When will you go to the dark side?"
Hmm. I think, like we said, when all the other boxes are ticked off, if it was like a perfect world, if I could choose exactly when, it would probably be coming out of a natural prep,
Hmm.
just to save yourself that recovery period. If you're gonna flip the switch anyway, do it when it's gonna pay off the most. Where my options are, I'm gonna absolutely tank my body into the ground and then just coast down here until I start climbing up again, where
Yeah,
I could just get myself into super physiological ranges and start growing straight away. Otherwise, I'm gonna take months just to start gaining weight again, and then actually have it be muscle, start getting my performance in the gym back. I feel like that would be the perfect time, but
And to be
of course,
fair,
there's
like
so many other factors.
when you're coming out of that like post show, like I'm 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 pretty sure I'm correct in saying this. Like you are like once your hormones start getting better, you are in like the perfect place to grow. Like I remember, I don't know if
Exactly,
you
yeah.
follow Lewis Emmanuel. He's coached
No.
by the classic. I don't know if he's changed his handle. I think it was like the classic Ghost.
Mm,
But like he competed at I think the WMBF, and then he went on. I'm pretty sure he went on gear straight away after the competition, and he blew up. Like
mm,
it's wild when you see someone go from natural to enhanced, but when someone's like stage lean and then you see them go enhanced and they've gained like 10 kilos and it's just the exact same composition, you're like, holy shit, drugs are
yeah.
wild, bro. Like
Yeah,
it's
those are the times
crazy.
where you can actually appreciate the power that that gives you.
Mm,
But also the same at the same time, you're also in like your most vulnerable state psychologically, and knowing that your body's gonna just like react so quickly to it, and the side effects will they're obviously gonna pop up as they do depending on how your body reacts to it.
mm,
But if there's ever a time where the side effects are gonna feel their worst, it's coming out of a prep,
mm.
especially the psychological side when stress is already like taken over your body, and then throwing such a strong thing into the mix, I'm sure it can push people to the other side where it turns them off the idea so badly.
Hmm. I've got a question for you. It says biggest. It's from Joel. It says biggest takeaways slash lessons from your first prep.
Ooh, that's quite a good question. The biggest takeaways would be, you know what is the biggest thing that it's one of those things that seems so obvious until you're really in it and you get to learn from it. It's
Mm,
completely taking your mind away from the end goal and just ticking boxes every single day. It's like it seems like it's something so obvious, but I don't even up until being like what 2.5 weeks out from my first show,
mm,
I don't even think about the end goal. I've just been thinking about here's how many steps I need to do, here's my cardio, my training, and my food for the day, and here's when I'm going to sleep. And I tick those things off every single day, and then I know what it's going to pay off to. But if I start thinking, what am I going to look like on stage? It'll throw off every week, every day before that, because I'll just be stressing over something I have no control over, other
mm,
than ticking these tiny little boxes.
mm. How are you how are you coping mentally on prep? Like have you had any wobbles or have you
No, I did expect when we first were like, okay, prep started, I was like, here's the things I need to be prepared for.
mm,
And I was like, my performance in the gym's gonna go down and I'm gonna be hungry. But then here's the psychological sides, the mental side, the all the stress. But those things didn't hit me quite as hard as I expected them to. But I think it's just because of everybody that I've followed, they post that content when they're like really close to their last show,
mm,
and then that's like the content that sort of reaches out to you. It's like that's the content that does well, so you
mm.
see loads of that. But in the point that I'm at now, where realistically I'm still like 11 weeks out from my last show, it's like I've still got that time up until the push gets really really bad. Which,
I
like I
think
said, today's like one of those days where I'm like, oh shit, I'm on prep just from a fatigue point. But I think those things are still to come. I still have expectations of where prep's going to take me, but luckily I've done quite well up until now.
Mm. I was saying to Tom, and I think it's good that you've started sharing your story as well because I feel like there's a certain expectation in the industry where like everything is just supposed to go a certain way, especially within a
Mm,
prep setting. And this isn't me saying that anything's going to go bad, and I really doubt it would, but I feel like it's so much more relatable when you can kind of share like your day-to-day thoughts and how everything's going
mm,
instead of just being like, oh, I completed everything today, done it again. Like, and
yeah.
people are just like, oh, cardio, fucking love it. And just like, oh, in the trenches, no, not me, mate. Like that attitude, like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are some people who are just like simply built different, but like
Yeah.
I just think the vulnerability and being able to show like your day in and day out and the small minute things you're going through and like how
Mm.
these small changes affect you is so much more relatable than just being like, oh, this was me 24 weeks ago and this is me now and I'm shredded and everyone
Yeah,
likes it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, and especially when people post things about the process that's like quite obvious. It's
Mm,
like, oh, here's my food and my cardio, my training, and then I think there's so much of your day between those things that
mm,
people would be interested in hearing about,
mm.
because you see things where it's like, oh, they trained, did their cardio, and they hit their macros for the day. But it's like there's millions of gym bros that did that too. I want to know about the prep specific, like the really deep diet parts of your lifestyle that are starting to kick in.
Mhm.
And I think that's things people either don't talk about enough, or when they do, it just doesn't get out. People don't link onto it as hard as they do when someone like has a deadlift PR 6 weeks out from a show.
Yeah, that's it. Um, I've got some deeper questions. I'm just going to get this one boxed off quick because it's
Mm.
more paid towards me. Max said, "What made you start the podcast, and what is
Yeah.
its purpose in my eyes?" I've never actually thought about this. I've
I
never.
did I did have a similar question for you, because obviously um before I came to the UK, before I met any of Max's boys, before the group chat started lighting up as much as it did in Dubai, I saw, must have been through your Instagram, I
Mm,
saw your podcast, and I went and I was listening to a few episodes, and I did have a couple questions of why you started and sort of where you want to take it. Sort of what's
mhm.
your view with it going into the
But
future?
is it now I think about it, it's actually a funny story to be like where it started and where I am now. About I think I started. I want to say a couple. I want to say like six. I don't know. I can't. I think it might have been like 4 or 5 months. But essentially, what
Mm,
happened was I was in a place where I was really struggling, like really struggling just with like the gym, everything, because I just felt like I had like stuff to talk about, but I didn't really feel like anyone really related to it because there was like no one in my life at the time who was like doing the same shit as me. And then my mate's sister's boyfriend is a PT, and basically we started getting close because we started talking about the gym. And then one day I said to him, "Do you want to start a podcast?" Just because
mm,
we could relate to each other. It was like to be completely truthful, I started it because I wanted someone to talk to for an hour once a week just about the gym. Like I just
yeah,
genuinely, like I needed that connection. Um
yeah,
and I think it just turned into like I wanted to be able to give back value in a format which is easily digestible. I get to meet new people and just like have a laugh at the same time because although I love the industry and there are some great podcasts out there, I really don't feel like there's any like kind of laid back, kind of talkative podcast where it's just like two mates having a chat about bodybuilding,
yeah,
except for like obviously the massive ones like fucking Fuad's podcast. Like that's the
yeah,
only
yeah.
one. And it's always been like, I just want to be able to get people I know or maybe don't know and just find out more about them and then just be able
Mm.
to share it. And it's just like two mates having a chat. That was just like the whole dynamic.
And to be honest, like you said, how you just wanted that hour to talk to someone, to just sort of have those conversations about what you're going through, what they're going through.
Hmm.
That's the same reason that when I was in Dubai, that's why I clicked on your podcast. That's why I went to go listen to it, because I was like, these people are in similar situations and they're going to bring up topics that I'm dealing with, and it is just sort of like being part of a conversation about
Hmm.
your lifestyle that you just don't get most of the time, depending on who you're around, obviously.
As well as that, like I really love just talking. Like I love talking
Mm,
to people and just finding out
yeah,
about like their life and like I just miss. I feel like apart from work, like life is literally just go to work, go home, chat to your mates on Instagram, and I feel like I miss sitting down with people and just I'd love to speak for like
yeah.
hours on end, like because you don't do it. You like when's the last time you sat down with someone and had like an hour and a half chat? Mind you, you've got a missus, so I'm sure you actually do that. But for all the single guys out there, and like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's
The hour and a half conversations I have with her is just me talking to her about bodybuilding, and her just going, mm-hmm,
you're just
mm-hmm.
telling her how to make cream of rice. You're like, no, listen, you put it in the kettle.
That was me when I came back from Rotherham, when I finally got on the cream of rice train. I was like, listen, the digestibility, how well it fits in your macros, and it tastes incredible. I
You just,
made it, and I was like, try some of this, but only a tiny bit, because it's like 80% of my meal here.
uh,
So I was like, here, try a bit. She ate it and she went, yeah, that tastes okay. And I was like,
You
you
don't
don't,
get levels, mate. You
you
don't
don't understand.
understand.
I'm gonna get shredded right now because I have cream of rice. I
Uh,
tried to fight that battle so hard against cream of rice.
no, mate, no
I
one's
saw
tried
people
fighting
post
that
this in
battle.
the group chat.
Mate, Zhao, like I'm training with him on Saturday. I might actually
Yeah.
bring cream of rice. I'm going to convert
What
him.
do you have in at the moment?
Hmm?
What brand of cream of rice and like whey do you use at the moment? What's your top tier go to at the moment?
Top tier. I'm not gonna lie, I literally just ran out. Don't get naughty boy cream of rice because it's grainy as fuck. It is shit. I hate it.
Mm,
Um, complete strength has always been the goat for me. It's just
I've
every
seen that a lot. Yeah.
complete strength is just like different levels, like mixability wise and like texture wise,
Mm.
unreal.
How do you cook it? Are you a microwave guy or just
I get in the
boiling
bin with
water
a
and mix it?
microwave. What do you mean the microwave?
No,
That's the
when I saw who was it, Tom posted and he's like, you put it in the microwave for this amount of time. I was like, just leave it
just
out.
boil a kettle and let it cool down. It's
Yeah.
not that hot. Do you know what really annoys me when you like? And I love Tom to pieces because this isn't Tom's fault. But like when people say, "How do you make cream of rice?" Like, are you not embarrassed? Like, do you not look at yourself in the mirror and just think, "Oh, wait a second, I've got a phone. Let me go on YouTube."
This
You
this
look,
is how
read
you
the
guys
packet.
this is how you guys reacted to my oats recipe though. This is
Yeah,
this is
because
the
you're
exact
messed up. Right.
no
Ruben
no no no.
puts whey in his oats and then puts it in
Hmm.
the microwave. He's cooking whey.
You're mixing dry with dry, and then you add the water, then you cook it. Today, I did something that Harvey told me to do: make the oats, make the protein paste, pour it over. That worked too, and it works better for the dark chocolate and the brownie one because it gets like as it cooks, it takes away like the oats texture and it just becomes a bit gloopy. But if you put it on top, you keep that like the texture from the oats and the flavors there. So I'm gonna try that with every flavor I've got now. I
Bro's
got
a
given 2 tubs of
style
protein,
chef.
so I'm just trying every single recipe possible now.
I will still never cook. I remember one of the first times I got whey protein, but to be fair, it might have just been because it was applied nutrition. Don't get it; it's horrible. I
Mm,
literally put applied nutrition whey in oats, and I definitely overcooked it. I put it in for way too long, and I just remember it
yeah,
tasting like, but like it tasted like what
yeah.
milk. And
Hmm.
every single time you just bring up cooking your oats like that, all I can think about is,
Yeah.
look, when we're at Max's, mate, you can show me how you do it, and maybe I'll change my mind. But
I'll
till
give you
now,
guys a little rundown. But that feeling that you said about the fact that you tried it and it was awful, that's how I felt about cream of rice. Because it was like when my off season, when the food started getting heavy, I said to Max, I was like, I need a better way to get these carbs in. I can't just
oh
eat
mate,
this
cream
amount
of
of
rice when you're
rice.
bulking is not the one.
I,
Mm-mm.
I I was like, I need something that's just going to digest fast because I can eat it, but then I'm sat there, and then as soon as my stomach's empty, it's time to eat again. So
Mm.
you went, just go grab some cream of rice. I went to the supplement shop in Cardiff, and I went, hey, I'm gaining weight, and I need cream of rice. Whatever you recommend. You're the huge bodybuilder here. Tell me what's up. Then he said, do you have a sweet tooth? And I was like, sure, yeah. I love desserts and stuff. He pulled out a tub of birthday cake, cream of rice, gave it to me with no instruction, and went, this is the one you want. I went home, made it like 4 different ways. First one was like soupy. The second one, I cooked it. I like flipped the bowl upside down and it wasn't moving. I was like, that's wrong as well. And then I took a bite of one of them and I was like, that is just chalk and paint. And since then I was like, I'm never touching it. I'm never eating it. I'm putting it in the bin. And I tried to fight that battle so hard until I was sat with Max and I went, how can you eat that? Wouldn't you rather just have like chicken and rice, like get some tortillas in or something? He gave me some of it, and I was like, I messed up. I think it was just the brand, the flavor choice, and how I made it. Because now I just have the JP vanilla, and you can put whatever way you want on there, and it's gonna be good.
Mm. And shit tons of cinnamon.
Oh, unnecessary amounts. I
Unnecessary.
searched up. I searched up. I can't remember what it was. I was searching something about cinnamon, and then Google was like, "How much cinnamon is toxic?" And I looked at it. I was like, "Well, I'm probably pushing that limit, but
Sorry,
it's
Max
one of
can't
those things.
compete
It's like,
overdose on cinnamon, mate.
it's one of those things. It's like if you eat the tub every day for like 3 days, you might get a tummy ache. So I was like,
Yeah, but
also
there's
Max told me to stop saying tummy.
tummy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I need to get that out of my vocabulary. It sounds worse every time I say it now.
Yeah, tummy is a bit noncy, but we'll let it slide. um, Oh, what was? Oh, I had something to say. I've forgotten. Okay. Well, right. I've got some very deep questions here. So you ready? You ready for these?
Let me get in the right mindset.
Okay, that's it. Serious face. Right.
I'm ready.
Um, this is so deep. This might actually take you the whole podcast for me to even think of. What do you think your purpose in life is?
Oh yeah, I saw that. That one. My purpose in life. I feel like your purpose is something it's something you either think you have an idea of and then you'll find something different through the process. But if I had to say right now, what do I think it is? Or what do I want it to be?
What do you think?
Hmm.
Because one is a very, very big difference.
Yeah. What's the first thing that popped into your head when you read it? Like your first
It
organic
sounds so
thought.
cringy though. Like I don't want to say it out loud because
But
everyone's
that's
just
that's the that's the
like
that's
it's
the real answer everyone's looking for.
no, like I genuinely feel like my purpose in life is to like just make people happy. And I know that
Mm,
sounds like proper weird, but like I've always, no matter what friend group or whatever it is, like I've always just been there to try and like be positive and be happy to people. And like I genuinely get, I feel like the most rewarding thing in my life is like seeing people happy from either like something they've achieved or like hyping them up or like
mm,
it's why I'm so supportive. Like I genuinely love it. I don't do it for attention. I don't do it, to like blow smoke up people's ass. I genuinely think if you can have an impact on someone's life and you can make so like I always think like you never know how much a few words can change someone's day. Like you never
mm,
know that they might have had a shit morning, they might have just lost someone, they might have be going through a rut, and 90% of people don't show it. Like they just don't.
mm,
And even though they might say they're transparent, bro, they don't. Like everyone has this face
yeah.
to show people, and I just think if you can be a positive person and you can have a positive impact on that person's life, why not? Do you know what I
Mm. And I think that sort of impact that you're talking about is something that
mean?
as as a coach you have like a really good opportunity there. It's
Mm,
someone that you're going to be communicating with daily or at least weekly, and you're in charge of however many variables throughout their lifestyle, and you can put them in a perfect situation to get the most out of them, out of themselves. And the benefits that improving yourself physically and improving your lifestyle has mentally, that alone is already a huge impact that I think every coach wants to have. Because the first time when you started training, the first time you notice that you're getting bigger, you're getting stronger, that feeling inside you where you just get so gassed,
mm,
that like being able to give that to someone, but not just about their performance in the gym, about all these different aspects of their life that they're improving.
mm.
I feel like that's like
That
the
knock-on
biggest thing you
effect
can
of
take
seeing
away.
like how it can affect someone's like mentality as well. Because like
Mm,
I remember like I used to be a really like fat kid, and like I remember saying to my mum, all I wanted
same.
when I was growing up, I was like, I just want abs. And I remember it so clear. One day she said to me, she was like, not everyone can have abs, like you just can't. And I
Yeah,
thought until the day I got them, I was just like, oh, I can't get abs. And I remember the first time I did my cut, and I saw like an outline of an ab, and I was like, holy shit, I can get abs. And that like switch in my head
yeah,
was like, oh my God, I'm capable of anything. And I
yeah. And the
like,
first time someone mentions it to you, where they're like, "You look like you lost weight," or "You look leaner," or they mention like, "Oh, your arms look bigger," you go, "It's happening, guys.
yeah, you
It's
just like brush
happening."
your hair behind your head and you're like, oh, thanks.
You just go, "Oh yeah, I've just been going to the gym," and you turn around and go,
Yeah, I've just been tracking every single aspect of my life for the past 2 years. Thanks for noticing.
"Yeah, I starved myself for like 6 months just for fun. Hit my protein goals every day."
Uh,
When you over exaggerate the like a bodybuilding lifestyle, it does end up sounding really weird.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
you think that's how Gen Pop people see bodybuilders.
Mm. I feel
And
like,
then you see the people at the top where they're doing some seriously questionable, weird things, but only to like the majority of the people in the world. But it is just what they're doing every single day.
yeah, it's like I find it normal that every single week I just post 4 pictures of me in my underwear to my
Mm,
story. And I think about it. So sometimes it actually creeps me out how normal I find it. Because Like
Mm,
every now and then, I'm like, why am I getting a follower request from a 40-year-old man asking me to send him underwear? And then I'm like, oh, I
yeah.
get it now. It makes sense. It's clicking. It makes
I
sense.
I did lead him there. I brought him
I
straight
did
to the
lead him
water.
on. I
Yeah.
was looking saucy in my underwear this morning. It makes sense.
To be fair, every Sunday night I go to sleep and think, okay, tomorrow morning, send a 29-year-old man a photo of me in my boxers with my butt cheek out.
I
And
think,
then I think about it, I'm like, that's a very weird part of my week that that I'm very
uh,
happy with.
I think the day I know I've like become a bodybuilder will be the day like someone DMs me or gives me money for my physique. Just
Mm.
like once that happens and someone says, "Are you natural?" I would that tick off my list officially a bodybuilder. Like I don't need to
I,
go to Rotherham and put hashtag Mecca. That's it. You know what I mean?
I've hit a point now with my physique where it's like I've hit a stage of lean where not to other people's to my own standards, where I'm like, this is outside of what could just happen accidentally. There's no one accidentally walking around in like the condition I'm in now, being so flat and like actually getting to a point where I'm like, I can see veins in my abs coming in
Mm,
and like the striations in my chest. I'm like, I couldn't have gotten here by accident. And that feeling of like, this is bodybuilding. It's like you
mm.
see those people, but then scale it up like 5 years or like 5 years in a process where you're like, holy shit, this guy has 0% body fat on his ass cheek. Those are the things where it's like you impress yourself, but then when you see someone else, you're like, how is that even possible?
I genuinely don't think I'll ever have shredded glutes because like my ass is literally concave. Like it doesn't exist. Like, there's legs, and then there's butt crease, and that's it. There's like I genuinely think Max would have to put me on like a bikini girl split like for 2 years for me to potentially get shredded glutes. Like it just isn't gonna happen.
That's exactly how I felt when I first was like, yeah, I'm gonna compete, prep starting, and I was looking at other people. I'm like, this guy has lines in his ass, and like his hamstrings, I can individually tell you where they insert.
Mm,
That's not possible because I've the last time I was lean wasn't anywhere near this amount of body fat, and I didn't have this much muscle to hold either.
mm,
So now I'm seeing things like this is the first time I'm seeing like veins in my quads and things, regardless of how long I've been training.
mm,
And then that switch in your mind, you're like, I didn't even know this was possible.
mm.
And then seeing it on yourself, that sort of it's motivating, but it's also like this has this been possible the whole time for
I
everyone?
think I think on that point, I think that's why as well. Like a lot of people say, like, "Oh, you're not natural," because
Yeah,
they've only gone to gym for like 2 years, and it's
yeah,
been nowhere near as consistent as like obviously the level we have it at. Um, to the point where like they think that how is that even possible? Because like
yeah.
even like I've been training since I was 19, and I still haven't got I still haven't seen ever quad veins. I've had ab veins. I've never had. I don't think I'll ever have shredded glutes. I've never seen like hamstring separation or stuff like that. So I think like even for people who've been in it for a long time, I think it's very easily for them to be like, oh well, I've been training X amount of years and
Mm,
I've never looked like that, so he must be on gear. Because it's so
yeah.
easy to justify because you never want to be like, imagine being a 40-year-old geezer, right? And then he comes across your page and he's been training like Ronnie Coleman his whole life, and you've been
Mm,
training for like 4 years and you've got better results than he's ever got, and he's like, no, mate, he's on gear. Tech. You know what I mean?
yeah. People see like a very capped delt and they're like, I heard more plates, more dates say that that's how you can tell someone's on roids.
You've
I
got
had
big cracks,
another
you're definitely in gear.
I had another question here that we can hit as quickly or as in depth as you'd like.
Yeah, there's no rush, mate. I'm easy.
Someone left it open as 5-year plan.
God, I fucking hate. Sorry to this person who's asked this question, but I fucking hate this question. It's so
I
shit.
replied I replied to them just going, I don't know.
Mm. Yeah,
Maybe
I
there's
don't
so
know.
many things that could happen. If you asked me a year ago where I wanted to be, like I've been with Max for like a year. If you asked me 2 months before I signed up with Max where I want to be in a year, it would not be here.
Mm.
But now that I'm here, it's like, yeah, this is exactly where I wanted to be.
Mm.
But in 5 years, let's narrow it down to like a physique goal, a career goal, and then just like a miscellaneous.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right, physique. 5 years I would have liked to have competed.
Mhm.
Um, and done reasonably well.
What's your thoughts on like what class, what sort of division would you want to compete in?
Well, I'm like Max has said to me I've got good shape, which I don't personally see in
You
myself.
do.
Um, I feel like I need more size for it to pop out, but I feel like potentially after we've done a full off season, because I've never done like a full off season. I
Mm.
just bulk cut, bulk cut, bulk cut. So I
And
like
it's
when
like those short bulks where it's like, I'm
yeah.
just gonna eat loads until I'm
Mhm.
fat, and then we'll start again.
Well, like it was always because I went between coaches and it was just like prime phase, prime phase, prime phase, and I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
so I'm so excited to actually have like an extended period of time where I'm just like
yeah.
huge. Um,
And
but
mate, on that topic, that is the thing that I've been the most gassed with. Like, obviously, this prep, I've sort of impressed myself, and it's been a lot of fun. But that off season, I've
mm,
told Max this so many times, that blew my expectations out of the water. When
mm,
we got on board the first time, he went, "Yeah, we'll like have like planned up until May that we can have a gaining phase, and we'll get you to like 95, 100 kgs." And I remember looking at the message, going, "He's lost his mind if he thinks I can weigh 95 kgs." I remember I called my girlfriend immediately after. I was like, "Yeah, signed on with Max, getting started, whatever." I was like, "He thinks we can bulk up to 95 at least, though." And then I remember the day where I stepped on the scales, and I was like, "Wait, I weigh 98 right now. My
mm,
last bulk was I weighed 86."
mm,
And then I was looking at myself. I was like, "I've put on so much muscle that I didn't even think was possible." But when you treat an off season like a prep,
mm.
it's the like the way that you come out of it is like you've learned so much. You've learned so many skills. Your training's hit levels that you didn't know existed, and then you carry all of that into a cutting phase, and then it's just silly combined.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited because the heaviest I've ever been is 85 kilos, and I said to Matt, I don't. I mean, obviously we'll see what he thinks, but like, I'd like to get into the 90s. Like, I that would be a goal for me. Like, if I could get into the 90s at the end of off season, I'd be like, yeah, these are good.
Mm.
Um, and what was the other one? So physique wise, career wise, and then
Physique wise, you wanted to compete,
yeah. So I want
and
to
that's
compete
is that naturally or enhanced or?
naturally. Yeah, no, I'm a natural boy. I've already
Mm.
considered PEDs, and like I won't go into too much depth because I've talked about it multiple times in the podcast. But like had had consultation calls twice. First time I bottled it. Second time I was like dead set. Literally had a chat with my parents and I was like, just so you know, I'm having the call tonight, and then tomorrow I'm literally ordering everything.
Mm.
And I just realized at the time I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I wanted to
Mm.
look bigger and do it for my business to blow up. And I was
Mm.
like, this isn't the right way. I can still get bigger. And like my mental health was in the bin. And that was like the main thing for me.
Mm.
Like, I had Christian Chapman used to be my old coach. Love you, Christian. And he basically said, like, look, this is not the right route for you. Like you don't
Mm.
if your mental's in the bin, you can't consider putting these things in you that could make it even worse. So I'm glad I didn't. But yeah.
But also, it's very good that you did do that. You reached out, you took the steps,
Mhm.
and then the realization you got from it wasn't what you expected, but it brought you all the way back to going, okay, I'm set, I'm happy with being natural. That's what I want to chase.
Yeah.
So that was a crucial part of this process, trying to put
A
yourself
hundred
out there.
percent, and I need to do it for the Natty Boys. Like
Mm.
I wanna be good for the Natty Boys.
Mm.
I think I'd like to compete in Classic just because I'd love to throw some shapes and do like a cool post.
You've got that shape as well.
But if it,
Sti-
mate,
I'm,
I'm so stiff. I've got two left legs. Like I feel like I'd do like a twirl on stage like this, and I'd just be like, oh, fall over. Do you know what I mean?
Sometimes when I see the classic guys posing, I'm like, that was majestic. I don't
My
know if I can
biggest
pull that
fear is
off.
like I do a posing routine as a classic and I'm just stiff as fuck. Like
Yeah.
like I've my toxic trait is thinking like I could be rough diesel on stage. Like I'd literally just be like
Yeah.
flowing with water, like put my hands up like time by time and just be like in
Get the
reality
little finger
like
flutters in between each pose as well.
I'd be shaking like a leaf. I'd be like
Mm.
this.
I mean, the skill that that takes. When I was doing my posing session today,
Mm,
he's a very good poser. This guy, and he hit like a 3/4 back double by, and I was like, you that was perfect. How did you do that? If I do that, I need to read out the cues, then do it, then look at myself, then
yeah.
read it again. But he just like fit into it so well, and I was like, that's just from repeating that process over and over again.
It is wild. Like I can't even center a back like whenever I'm trying to take my check. Like, how am I? You know what I mean? Like how am I supposed
My
to?
check-in photos, I'm like this.
Yeah,
My one
exactly.
arm's just outside, and then I'm
I'm
trying to
always like
crop it.
rotating it to make sure it's in frame. It's terrible. Yeah, so I'd
So
like to
a
complete
classic natural show.
classic natural show. Business wise, I'd like to be self-employed, have a great team, and just be a great coach, like for like Gen Pop lifestyle as well as like I'd like to get to the point where I could potentially have like um, some natty competitors, but like I don't feel comfortable coaching someone, um, like in that kind of realm until I've competed myself because I just think it's. Do you know what I mean? I feel like
Yeah, I
Tom
feel
touched
the
on it.
exact same.
Tom said it perfectly. It was like, how am I supposed to tell someone to like dig deep if I've never dug deep? Do you know, like it doesn't make
Mm,
sense. How am I supposed to tell someone when they're like on their final week and they're in the absolute trenches and I'm like, just suck it up when I
mm.
haven't done that? Like, how am I supposed to relate?
This is I got another question that bounced off that really well that you can answer quickly. Who do you want to coach?
Um, what like specifically, like one individual or
Just either a demographic or an outline of a person that's like your perfect client that you want to reach out to, that you want to be able to coach.
I just anyone. Like I
Mm,
know it sounds bad, but like Christian when I was with Christian and like he really like kind of he said this like a lot and it always kind of stuck with me is like I want to be able to I think the best coaches can coach anyone and I don't think that yeah, it's good to have a niche. I understand that. But like I feel like a great coach could meet anyone down the street. Like I've got a full like 45-year-old clients who literally just work like an office job. I've got people who take it a lot more serious. And I feel like there is so much skill in being able to read an individual and realize,
mm,
what is important for this person might be completely different to another person. I think in the time I've coached, I've realized that you go through a strange period. Like when I first started, I was like, you have to do this way because this is how I've done it. And
yeah.
you're like, you can't do it any other way. But then you realize this person has kids and this person can't optimize their sleep because they have, work and they get home at like 10 o'clock every single night and they have to eat. And you're like, it's figuring out these small things. And like,
Yeah.
if you said to me, like, what's my ideal client? It's just someone who really wants to work on themselves. Like, that's it.
Mm,
Like someone who they could be any size in any condition, and they could just say to me, like, look, I want to change. And
yeah.
my favorite part of the process is like having this person from day one and then seeing them at the end, and you're like, these aren't even in the same realm of who these people are.
And whether you're getting someone a dad who works an office job to the point where you can see his abs for the first time, or a serious bodybuilding client placing in his first show, you'll get that reaction out of them where it's so meaningful to them and they'll enjoy the process so much and they'll have so much to take away from it, regardless of how far on the spectrum they are. You can bring that same feeling to so many different people. I feel like that's what most coaches aspire to be able to get anyone from any demographic and bring them the physical and the psychological benefits of sort of taking control of their life and ticking off those goals that were just like huge dreams in the back of their head for ages.
Yeah,
So I think that's a good answer there.
it's so much more rewarding than doing like an office job. Like I remember like when I worked uptown, I remember sitting. I was 18, like fresh out of school, and I remember sitting there and like a couple months in, I was like, this is the rest of my life. Like this is it. And I was like, don't want to do this, mate. Like this is not. I used to be obsessed with money and this idea of like getting money, and then I remember like at my age, at the time at 18, I was making a decent bit amount of money, but then I realized I was like, this isn't it. Like I would rather have just enough to look after myself and be able to coach people, and I would be happy. That like my
Hmm.
dream is to be able to coach people and have enough to be financially stable. That's it. I don't give a shit about a massive house. I don't give a shit about all these luxurious items. All I want to do is be able to help others, establish my business, and be comfortable. That's it.
Mm. I've spoken to a few people about this, about at what point would they see themselves as like successful financially, and it's always just come back to just to sustain the lifestyle that they want to live, everything that they need to, whether it's bodybuilding where they can afford everything they need to sustain that lifestyle, they'll be happy. And obviously people have different lifestyles, different goals, but as long as you have the things that you need to guarantee that you're going to be happy with the things that you're looking to do,
Mhm.
that's enough. I don't know if I feel like I'd get overwhelmed if I had loads of money. If anything, I'd fall off. I'd fall off the wagon. I'd stop bodybuilding, start doing some weird shit.
What weird shit would you be doing?
Oh, I always thought about the fact that if I won the lottery, right, I would just start paying people to do dumb shit to entertain me. I'm not watching films anymore. I'm just gonna pay my friends
Real
to like
life jackass.
eat a cactus. Yeah, I would just pay people to do jackass
Just
things.
like eat a
Just
cactus. Just go
I
up
could
to
find
homeless
maybe.
people. You'd be like, you want to make a grand, do you?
No,
Eat
you
this.
didn't have to. You didn't have to bring the homeless people in. I meant like maybe my mate. I've
I
got a
can
few that would
picture
do
it
it for
now.
less, to be fair.
Fresh out of the gym, you just see a homeless person. You're like, oh, you hungry, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got like one question. We'll finish on this question because I think we've been going for quite a while.
Mm.
It's a two-parter, so it probably will take a bit. So the question is, mentally, do you spend more time in the past, present, or future?
Hmm. I feel like at the moment in prep, how I said that like you sort of don't think about the end goal, you're very stuck into day to day. I feel like I'm very much in the present or like the very near future.
Mhm.
I have a list of things I need to do today, and then I have a list right under it, things I need to do tomorrow.
Mm,
But I don't really think too far into the future just because I know how things can change. But in the past as well, because I don't know, I think present probably. And I
mm.
just sort of dabble into either way depending on what I'm doing.
See, I'm weird. I spend a lot of my time in my past, and
Mm.
I heavily fixate on a lot of aspects from my past, and it's something I've become very conscious of, and it's something I'm trying to get over because I realize that it's very bad to like live in the past, and I feel like there's certain aspects of things like I've overcome, but I still kind of like some of my life is still being ruled by living in that kind of aspect
Mm.
of the past. Um, and the second point of that question was like, now you've thought about that, what is the lesson to be learned from that? Like, so like, what is the lesson to be learned from like where you are living?
Mm. You know how I said how I sort of dabble into the past, into the future. I feel like the times when I really get stuck into thinking about the past is when I'm either applying it to something I'm doing now or applying it to something I want to do in the future. So things I've learned from the past, how's that experience, how's that information going to guide me through what I'm doing today? And then how can I keep applying that into the future? So it's sort of lessons from the past into expectations in the future from things I've experienced to things I know that are coming up, and then how can I live in the middle ground between those two? So the things I've learned, the things I want to do, how can I get there? I feel like that's the biggest lesson because there's no point living in the past if you're not going to learn anything from it or
Mm,
apply any of it. You're just sort of getting stuck mentally then.
mm.
But
Uh,
living in the future is probably just as bad.
Yeah, because I feel like whenever you live in the future, it's just like anxiety driven because you're creating
Yeah.
scenarios which don't even exist. Like, and then
Mm.
you're just thinking about that, overthinking it, and it's just never really positive stuff. I find it's always
Yeah.
negative when you're living in the future.
Yeah. So I either apply the lessons from the past to today, or I think what I want to do in the future, and then I bring it back to what do I need to do today to get to there.
Hmm.
That's a good question. Was that also from Max?
It was. And I'm just gonna finish on this one because it's in here. It says who's been your biggest, and then there's another part to it.
It's a very crucial
Uh,
part to that sentence.
Yep. Really is crucial. Biggest inspiration.
Ooh.
Do currently.
Currently, my biggest inspiration. I don't know. I feel like recently in prep, because of that phase at uni where I was sort of pulled away from bodybuilding, I've gone from where I am today back to the people I looked up to when I first started bodybuilding, when I
Mm,
was really locked in. The people who sort of motivated me to start are the people that are motivating me now, now that I'm really stuck into it.
mm,
So I've gone back to old Josh Bridgman content when he was natural,
mm,
uh, AJ Morris, whatever he's putting out, I'm on it. Jack Thorburn, being able to meet him was so surreal because like 16, 17-year-old me was like, what did he do? Because I'm going to do exactly that.
mm,
Which to be fair, we have very different lifestyles. That wouldn't work. But the lessons that they've learned from when I started like interacting with their content until now, they're the ones that have sort of been inspiring this whole journey.
I'd say AJ Morris, just for the calves. I'm just kidding. I definitely think as like if you're looking at anyone from like a coaching aspect, especially in the natty industry, for what he's achieved, and basically he's put like the majority, not all of it, but like a large majority of like the natty scene is relevant because of him. Um, I was I'm also going to say this, but I'm not going to let it go to his head because I've already gassed him out up in private. I'll say Max because I
I tried
can't.
my best not to. I
Yeah,
tried
no,
my
no.
best
I
not
know
to
that's why
say
I'm not
that.
going deep into it because his head will explode. Like there's already too much
Yeah,
GH. Like you know what I mean.
yeah.
No, but like, sorry, Max, if you're listening. No, I just think from the aspect of like the community he's created, and how he like holds himself as a coach, athlete, um, and just like as a genuine human, like as well, just
Told him
like
exactly that. That's an exact sentence verbatim that I told him.
like he
He's just
just
a
is.
very impressive human.
Yeah, he's just a genuine human, and I feel like everyone's like true purpose, like coming back to this true purpose in life should just be yourself and don't be
Mm.
afraid of like being yourself because I feel like there's so much like social media will like tell you to act a certain way, like tell you how to dress, do this, do that, and like just like speaking to him and just like seeing him through like videos and all this kind of stuff, you can just tell like his genuine self. And I
Do you
feel like
think? Do you think that's sort of rubbed off on you that he sort of taught you lessons on how to just unapologetically be yourself?
I'm 100%. Like
Yeah.
I've definitely become more confident in myself in just like doing this. Like be like I said to him the first time I joined the group chat, I was genuinely like shit scared of putting shit in that group chat.
Yeah.
Every single group chat I've been in the past has been like you say something you get roasted, but that was the complete opposite. And I feel like through that community and through providing laughs and this kind of stuff, I've kind of realized like oh, I can just be myself here. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
it's like it's well received, and I feel like that and being able to create that for other people is just on the money, mate.
He did that. He did that for me very well when we were talking about sort of um, how I wanted to document my prep. I wanted to document the whole thing. I was
Mm,
like, I can't bring myself to like talk on my story. I
mm,
can't bring myself to like post certain things. And then he took my phone, put it on a video, and went, "You're gonna film yourself." And then since that day, I was like, he just wants me to, because he knows that's what I want to do. That's the
mm,
person who I want it to be, and he just went, "Go for it. You need to stop thinking about other factors and just be yourself on there." And
mm.
then since then, it just like it clicks so well because it's one of those things where you're probably not going to get there yourself. You're going to talk yourself out of those things quite easily. But when someone else sort of pushes you into the deep end, as soon as you get comfortable with that uncomfortable situation, you can just be yourself after that. You're just free flowing.
100%. All right, mate. Well, we'll leave it there. I feel like that was very good. I feel like it was over an
I'm
hour.
happy with that.
Thank you everyone
Yeah,
for listening. I will put up a question box next week. If you have any suggestions of people you'd like on, as well as topics you want us to cover, please just message me directly or put it in the question box when it's up. Ruben, thank you for coming on,
I
and
appreciate it.
yeah,
And
see you in the next one. Oh,
can someone get a vape counter? Who took their vape more in this call, me or Lou?
it was
We'll see.
definitely you, mate. I'm just I'm not
Man.
doing that at all.